you've reached Gloria with Farmstead Talk, and I am here today with Dustin and Beka from Driftless Acres, and they are representing their state of Wisconsin. So welcome, and thank you guys for joining me on this interview this evening.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no problem. Glad to have you. So do you want to share with the audience where they can find you on social media?
You can find us at Instagram, Driftless Acres, no spaces. And then Facebook and YouTube, Driftless Acres with a space in between it.
Okay, very good. So tell me a little bit about yourself, where you were born and where you're currently living at.
All right, let's see. I was born in La Crescent, Minnesota, and that's about an hour south of Viroqua here, where we live now.
Okay.
It's about an hour north.
Or no, yeah, north.
An hour north.
South
Yeah.
area. Yeah.
So we're an hour south of there.
Okay.
I was born right here in Viroqua. We're in rural Viroqua right here, which is in Wisconsin. And we've had this farm now I've had it for about 2 years, and we've been homesteading for about 1.5 years.
Okay. And tell me a little bit about the history. I know it's a little unique, the situation that you're in, how you acquired the property.
Right. So this is actually a 200-acre farm that was a family farm. My dad lives on the north side of it, and then I acquired 8 acres on the south side. And it just was field and woods. That's how it started. So.
And then you built your home there?
Yep, built a home there. It was originally a conventional dairy farm. Now it's just crop farmed on all the old fields. And then my small section of it, we're starting to do everything organically, trying to.
Okay. What are the crops that have been grown on the fields there?
Corn and beans.
Corn and beans. What kind of beans? Soybeans?
Yep. All
Okay.
conventional.
Are you going to do an organic certification on your property?
We're still debating on that.
Yeah.
Probably not. We're going to try to go what I like to call certifiably transparent. So we probably won't get a certification, but we'll make sure everyone knows what's in what comes off the farm.
Okay, when you say certifiably transparent, how do you portray that to people that are interested in buying any produce or animals off your property?
Well, we would just simply say that we're not certified organic, and then explain to them, though, that everything that we're feeding them and everything that goes into these animals and this food is all organic. And we have everything to prove it. And if they're okay with that, we're okay with that. If it's somebody that wants something that's certified organic, then they won't be able to buy stuff from us.
Right. Yeah. So it's basically just naturally grown, no pesticides or.
Right, just not going through all the steps of certification and fees,
Right.
all that.
So
And I mean, go ahead.
what would you say was your biggest inspiration for wanting to start the home style journey?
Healthy food.
Probably healthy food. I have a lot of food intolerances, and so just knowing where my food comes from and what's in it, it's important to me because it definitely makes a difference.
And there's a lot of cancer going around. A lot of my family is getting cancer. I've had a lot of family members die of cancer, and it's hard not to start to wonder, why is everyone getting so much cancer? And
Right.
there's some really good documentaries on Netflix
Yeah.
that it's hard to dispute what it's coming from.
Yeah. Agreed. So tell me what kind of animals you have on the farm.
All right.
We have chickens, we have geese, we have ducks, we have goats, and we have guinea hens.
Okay. And what's the purpose? Are they for food? Are they pets? Are they rescue? What's their purpose on the homestead?
So the chickens we use for eggs. We get eggs from there, and we give eggs to family members. we're debating on seeing if the local food bank will take some if we have extra. I don't see why that would be a problem. I think it would be a good thing.
I think it's a good thing too.
Yeah. And the geese.
Ducks too. The eggs from the ducks.
Yeah. And the ducks we get eggs from as well. And the duck eggs are good for baking.
Yes.
So.
I don't have ducks, but I hear that they're very good for baking.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we have geese. We just kind of got those because, well, initially they were going to be some guard geese for the chickens.
Mm-hmm.
But they started thinking they were goats. So
Yeah.
they don't really guard the chickens too well.
They just follow the goats around.
Yep, they eat the
Looking
goat
for food.
food. They graze with the goats. They just hang out. They think they're goats.
There's a bunch of them in every crowd, it seems like.
Yeah.
But they're a Sebastopol goose. Really well tempered. They're not mean, and pretty comical actually.
Good entertainment.
Yep.
Yeah. And pretty expensive. We'll probably breed.
Yeah, we'll probably sell chicks. They're
Yeah.
they're around $100 as chicks. So.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh,
We've seen them for sale up to $200. You know, sexed Sebastopol geese, but
Depending on where you go.
I don't know if they're selling at that price. I wouldn't pay that kind of price for them, but.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're by far our favorite bird that we've raised.
Yeah, they're
Hands down.
very social.
Have you
With the other animals.
tried turkeys?
We haven't. I'm planning on it.
Yeah, we want to.
To me, I think that the turkeys are the most bonding with humans. They're just, that's my favorite poultry to raise are turkeys.
I've always wanted turkeys.
Yeah, we'll have to try it.
Yeah. Next year we're planning for pigs and turkeys. Them are the two.
Some meat birds.
And some meat birds, but.
Well, just go slow. You don't have to do everything overnight. That's for sure. Just plan everything.
Yeah.
And
we always make sure we have infrastructure in place before we get animals. Otherwise, it's the animals that end up suffering. So
that's right. Yeah, that's a responsible thing to do. So, tell me about your gardens that you had, and what type of gardening techniques are you utilizing?
All right. We had a really big garden this year, but we didn't really have the time or energy to put a lot into it. That one we just planted straight into the ground. For the most part, I started a few things, but too early. And I think part of it had to do with our weather this year. It was really cold, really late, so we didn't have a very long growing season this year.
Mm-hmm.
The Midwest has had terrible weather all year.
Yeah, out west we had a really bad spring as well. So we had lots of late frosts, and like our summer started really late.
Really late, yep. And so that was kind of a problem for us. So that we ended up getting a lot of already started plants from the local agri center and stuff like that. And those did well. So we had a smaller garden with plants that we bought from local stores here. My herb garden, I think, did the best.
Your what?
My herb garden.
Oh.
With lavender and basil and parsley, cilantro, all those things.
So what kind of veggies did you end up with from the starts that you got?
Tomatoes.
Peppers.
Yep.
Tomatoes. The herbs.
The herbs and the what were them gourd things you planted?
Zucchini and summer squash and stuff like that. I got quite a few of those.
There was some cross pollination happening there, though.
Yeah, there's something weird that happened. We got one that was kind of like oval shaped, but once you cut into it, like it was orange on the outside, and when we cut into it, it looked like a cucumber and smelled like a cucumber.
Yeah,
it was like
it was supposed to be a squash, I think, but it was definitely a cucumber inside.
If you have multiple types of zucchinis or pumpkin or squash, or they seem to cross a lot. I had the same thing. I had really kind of weird pumpkins this year, that
Yeah,
were
that's
growing
pretty
next to some of my summer squash. So
I'm sure.
it happens.
We're
Yeah.
definitely new to all this, so we're learning a lot of
as we
times
go.
the hard way.
Yeah, well, sometimes Mother Nature just plays her games, and you can be brand new or been doing it for 30 years. I still get all kinds of surprises. You just never know.
Mhm.
So,
Right.
well, it's good. Yeah, you got to live and learn and keep trying, and
Yeah.
excuse me. One of the things that you had mentioned to me before, sorry, about the tapping of the maple trees and your experience with that, first experience, and that sounded really exciting. You want to share that with us?
Sure. So I was always interested in it. Probably 5 years ago or so, there was a guy in town I'm friends with, his son-in-law, and we went out to talk to him, and he was out in the woods, and he was boiling down maple syrup. And I mean, the smell was amazing, and he's out in the woods doing this. I'm like, this looks great. So from that point forward, I'd always wanted to try it. Well, I finally got the farm. I had sugar maples out back. I'm like, well, I'm going to give it a try. So I did a lot of researching, and I got on Amazon, ordered some taps, some hoses, some food grade pails, and I went out and tapped 10 trees, and the sap started running. I'm like, well, I should probably figure out how to make syrup out of this. So I researched that, bought a 20-gallon pot and a burner, and gave it a whirl, and we made some pretty good syrup.
It was pretty good.
What was the process like? Like, how long does it take to tap? And then how long, once you have all the sap, how long does it take for the cooking or the boiling process to get the actual syrup?
So I tapped 10 trees, and we were probably out there for a half hour, 45 minutes, and we had them all tapped and everything set up. And then we just waited for the temperature to be right to where it would start running sap. And the sap started running, and so it's a 40-to-1 ratio. It takes 40 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of syrup.
Wow.
And so because of my setup, I could only do about 10 gallons of sap at a time, and it would take me about 6 hours to boil that down.
Wow.
So, and then after that, I'd have to bring it in the house and finish it up. I'm sorry.
That's
I'm going to try
okay.
to settle these dogs down.
It's okay.
Hey.
They're part of our lives.
Oh, yeah.
Why you gotta play right now? Hey, come on, go lay down. Lay down.
No, wait. They're going every which direction here.
Yeah.
Watch out.
It's okay.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Real life.
It is real life. It's for sure.
So yeah, that was really fun, and in fact, I like doing it so much. I actually ended up getting a wood evaporator for next year, so I can go from boiling 10 gallons in 6 hours to boiling 10 gallons per hour.
Okay. And then what season was it again that you were telling me that it was?
Early spring. It's got to be when it's above freezing during the day and below freezing at night. So that temperature change changes the pressures within the tree, and it kind of acts like a pump, and it starts pumping all that sugar and nutrients out of the ground and pumping it up to the leaves for they can grow it's budding season, right? So the leaves need all their sugar and stuff to grow.
Yeah. So there's like a time frame, literal time frame that you have to do it.
It's only like 2 or 3 weeks. It really depends on the year, but I think I had about 2.5 to 3 weeks this year where I was able to do it.
That's great. I wish I had that opportunity. How wonderful. Tell me about your endeavor with the bees.
So there again, it was something I had always kind of wanted to do. I had the place to do it, and it was a year of first for us. So I figured, well, let's try bees. We're going to have a garden. It'd be nice for them to pollinate our plants and stuff. So we went and got a local apiary. We went and bought bees from them. We got a nuke. It's called a nuke, which is basically a small 4 or 5 frame established hive already. And you take those frames out and put them in a new box. You can get either a package of bees or a nuke. We went with the nuke. It's a little more expensive, but it worked out. In true Midwest fashion, the day we went to pick the bees up, it was a freak late snowstorm. We couldn't keep the bees in the nuke box. So I had to transfer the bees into the new hive box or brood box during a snowstorm. I got them transferred in there. I covered it with some coats and stuff like that to keep them warm. And I was thinking in my head, my bees are gonna not make it the first night I have them. But they made it through. And actually within a month, they had grown so much, the population had grown so much that they swarmed, which I actually caught that swarm and started another hive, which I actually have that on a YouTube video. I videoed myself catching that swarm and put it on YouTube. So it's actually one of my more viewed videos.
Nice.
But yeah, so that was pretty cool.
Where did you put your beehive station at on the property?
It was about 25 yards from our garden.
Okay.
So we put it so that we weren't going to be in the bees' way, in our day-to-day stuff in the yard. We didn't want to be in between the bees and the garden. So they were about 25 yards away from the garden. They had woods behind them, and in front of them was the garden. And they did really well. Plus, we got a bunch of crabapple trees around here.
Mm-hmm.
And so them trees,
love that.
yeah, they blossom out like crazy.
And you said that you got some honey this year, right?
We did. It was unfortunately because our main hive didn't make it through this weird cold spell we had. We went from like mid 40s to 5 degrees at night and like 15 during the day and that was like in a 23-hour period.
But you did get some honey, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Generally, you like going into winter, I wouldn't want to take honey from the bees. They need that to eat throughout the winter. But unfortunately, that hive passed away.
Oh, so that's why you got the honey.
So then I was able to extract that honey.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
But the second hive from the swarm I caught, that's still going strong. So
very good.
Did you winter that a little bit?
Yeah. So I actually have some styrofoam to insulate it on the way. But I'm also trying something else this year. We had a little mini greenhouse that you like put in front of a door or something.
Okay.
I put that actually over the hive to keep the wind out, and I'm hoping it'll keep it a little warmer during the day.
That's
so we're going to give that a
interesting.
try.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I never seen anyone else do it, but we had the greenhouse, and I'm like,
Try it.
it can't hurt.
Yeah, can they get out if they want? If you have a nice day, can they get out of the greenhouse?
They could. They probably won't, because I believe bees need like at least 45 or 47 degrees or above, or they'll die like within minutes. And up here in the Midwest, once it's done being that temperature, it's 6 months.
Yeah, it's pretty much going to stay consistently cold.
Yeah. Yep.
Tell me about the success that you've had with the enclosures, your mobile goat unit and the enclosures that you made for them.
Yeah, so everyone warned us that goats would be a terrible decision. They get out constantly and they jump all over your vehicles when they get out. But we've had zero issues. The only time our goats ever got out was when I left the gate open. So we keep them in poultry netting. Well, during the winter we keep them in a permanent metal and wood fence. But all summer we kind of rotate them around our pastures so they're on grass. And we keep them in poultry netting. Well, the poultry netting, our grass grows so fast here. I mean, it'll grow 6 inches a week.
Mm-hmm.
And it was getting onto the fence and grounding it out. So it's an electric poultry netting. And it wasn't very electric because it was all grounding out on the ground. So they were sticking their heads through there and getting their heads stuck. So what I did was I got some fiberglass posts, and it's called polytape electric fence. It's like a ribbon that you put up that's electric fence. So I got a bunch of fiberglass posts, and I ran that polytape around the inside, 2 strands of it, 1 strand 6 inches up and 1 strand probably 12 to 14 inches high. And I don't electrify the poultry netting anymore. I only electrify that polytape, which I have just on the inside of the poultry netting. The goats don't get out. They touch it once or twice, then they're trained to it. They don't even challenge the fence.
That's great.
So, yeah, it's really nice.
And then, so what about the mobile unit that you made?
So I call it the mobile goat shed. It's basically an 8-foot by 16-foot shed. It's got 4-foot sidewalls on it. And then the center of the roof is like 6.5 feet. But I built it on an old hay wagon. So you can hook it up to the tractor or 4-wheeler and pull it to wherever they're going to be grazing next. And the floor, I used 1x6 untreated wood, and I spaced them like probably a 1/2 inch apart. That way all their urine and little goat poos will just fall through it.
Okay.
And go onto the ground and fertilize the grass under it. And then they're not laying in their own stuff. I still put straw in there and stuff like that, but their little goat poos and pee can go through it then, and it keeps everything dry.
Is that something that you have on your YouTube channel that folks can check out if they need it?
I haven't put that on the YouTube channel yet. I plan on it.
Okay.
There's quite a few things that I just haven't got around to putting on the channel yet, but there's going to be some good things to come on the YouTube channel.
Okay.
Good ideas for people that are trying to do the homesteading thing and trying to do it on the cheap.
Yeah.
Because you can kind of learn by my mistakes and my triumphs.
That's why I do this, because everybody can learn from everybody else, you know. It helps people from saving on a lot of mistakes. So,
Right.
True.
What would you say is your biggest challenge right now on the homestead?
Winter. Right now on the homestead, our biggest challenge is the weather. This year's been crazy. We went through a cold snap, everything froze super hard. Now we've had a week of rain, nastiness. We got tons of mud. But in general, as a whole, we need to figure out what to do with weeds, how to control weeds organically.
Well, and then in the spring, we had that issue with the gnats.
Yep, we had a really bad gnat problem. They were called black flies this year. I guess they say if the black flies get really bad, it's because you're actually having great weather.
I think it's because the environment is healthy, like the river is healthier, and that's where they come out of or something.
But they were awful.
They were real bad.
There was people that were losing full-grown chickens to them. We lost chickens to them, just crawling in their mouths and beaks and stuff and suffocating them. I mean, it was bad.
Are they like little, like the size of like fruit flies, or are they bigger?
They're a little bigger than fruit flies, but they're just like a big gnat. They're smaller than a house fly. They're probably not even half as big as a house fly.
But same, kind of gnat as the fruit fly. Just they bite.
Yep.
And can you see them? Do they like fly in swarms?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and they're everywhere.
They fly around in your face, and they're in your eyes and your mouth. and our coops,
Your ears.
the walls and windows were just covered in them, and we couldn't find anything that would work to keep them off the chickens other than we found that they didn't like air movement. So we actually ran extension cord out to our coop and bought a fan just for in the coop.
Have you had a chance to ever talk to anybody in your neighborhood or your community about what they do for these gnats? Nobody knows what to do about
I
them?
mean, I asked around, and I think a lot of people just didn't really do anything. They either treated it with chemicals,
Okay.
which I don't think spraying
people
chemicals on your livestock is good.
Yeah.
Or they just didn't do anything. You're on a farm, deaths happen.
Yeah.
But I try to prevent it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never heard of those before. And
Yeah,
especially getting in the respiratory systems of your poultry, that's terrible.
Yeah, and we had a couple that passed away because they'd bite and they'd drink the blood out of the chickens and stuff. Well, we had some that were just covered in them, and we're pretty sure they just sucked all the blood out of them because they were dead, but they didn't have a bunch.
I would try calling your extension office, like through a division, through a university or something, or Department of Agriculture, and ask them what they think, because that's horrible.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone really knew what to do because that's the first time we've had a problem like that.
Oh, it's new. So it's a new problem. It's not
Yeah.
something that happens every year by you.
No, it was just.
We've never had, in my life, I'm 30 years old, I don't ever remember anything like that.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just a new thing.
Yeah.
A freak.
So hopefully it doesn't happen next year.
Yeah, hopefully not. What would you say is your biggest successes?
I'd say one of our biggest successes is we planned on building a goat herd, so we bought 5 goats. Well, 2 of the older females were exposed to a buck. They weren't guaranteed they were pregnant, but both of them had triplets, which all lived and are all still healthy. So we bought 5 goats and ended up with 11 healthy goats. So I would say, as far as if the goal is to build a goat herd, that's a pretty good success.
That's a really very good success.
Both mom goats were great moms. It was just
no bottle babies.
No bottle babies. And then I would say another big success is not giving up. I mean, because it's hard. There's a lot of times where it's like, man, is it worth it? But it is.
And I believe we've all been there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think I go there every season, my whole life. I mean, it's hard. It's really hard where there's so many ups and downs and unpredictable situations, and weather changes, and there's a lot of obstacles, but it's definitely worth it.
I mean, when you can wake up in the morning, fry an egg or a couple that you got right off the farm, you know that there's nothing bad in it.
Absolutely.
Throw some greens from the garden. I mean, it's worth it.
I mean, and then also the whole fact of, you're living in the country, you don't have neighbors bothering you all the time. You have peace and quiet. You're around nature. I mean, there's so many benefits.
Definitely. There definitely is.
I mean, growing your own food and just the lifestyle in general. I just think just the de-stress, even if you didn't do anything, even just growing your food or just doing one thing is such a huge benefit.
Yeah, I would say if someone is thinking about maybe even just growing food, like growing tomatoes or something, go for it.
So let me ask you this. If you could give advice to somebody who's brand new on the fence, lives in the city, and said, I'm thinking of maybe doing what you're doing someday, what kind of advice would you give to them?
Start with just plants. Start with plants and don't try to grow too fast. Because it's
expensive. Really bad.
It does. And if you're planning on getting animals, make sure you have the infrastructure for them before you get them. Make sure you got cover for them to get in and out of the weather and fencing before you get the animals. Otherwise,
You know how you're going to feed them. You
Yep.
know, we're fortunate that we have a lot of friends that do hay or straw or things like that, so we know that we can get those things.
yep.
Yeah, a lot of people do things on a whim sometimes and fall in love with something and bring something home and say, "Oh, well, we'll figure it out." But it makes it really hard to figure things out when you got 3 goats, 3 baby
Right.
goats, and where to
Right.
put them.
Or if you're thinking about getting a certain animal, research it. Like if someone goes out to buy 1 goat, that's not a good thing. They're a herd animal.
That's right.
They can't be just by themselves. They'd be very unhappy.
Right.
They'd be very unhappy. Yeah. So if you can sum up in 1 word your experience with homesteading so far, what would that be?
Can she have a word and me?
Absolutely.
I don't think I could really come up with anything else. Probably your word's the best.
Well, then I want to use 2 words. Is that okay?
Tell me 2 words. Yep.
Challenging, but rewarding.
Yeah, I'm trying to find a word that meant both things, but couldn't quite figure it out.
It's not easy. If someone's out there thinking about doing the gardening and the planting and animals and all that, it's not easy, but it's worth it.
I
If
think
it's a
those words
lifestyle.
I think those words are spot on, challenging and rewarding. Absolutely. So I want to thank you guys for taking your time and interviewing with me. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you both have a wonderful night and keep in touch, and thank you again.
Yes, thank you. You
Thank
too.
you.
Okay.